we interrupt this broadcast to bring you some breaking news.
Lunar Lake wants you to forget that Qualcomm even exists.
Is Lunar Lake going to make you forget that the X Elite chip is even a thing? I mean, honestly, most of you guys have probably already forgotten the X Elite chip is a thing, but just in case you haven't, will Lunar Lake make you forget? Sometimes AMD wins, sometimes the X Elite wins, and sometimes Lunar Lake wins, but generally they're actually all kind of close, which is exciting. But although in video playback, Intel seems to always win this test. They always last the longest. And then during YouTube, it's actually a lot. It's about like 4 hours with YouTube. So like today, we're just gonna talk really briefly about what I think. Like, number one, I think if you're buying a laptop, you should only be considering, and you're on Windows, you should only be considering Intel or AMD. The Qualcomm X Elite is out of the picture, guys. There's actually no reason to buy that thing unless it's heavily discounted and you really just use it for school and like to watch TV and stuff. Like, there's really not a point to get a laptop like that that's going to be incompatible with so many things. Now, I hear a lot of people saying like, go with Intel if you just need the power efficiency and you like gaming because it's better at gaming. And I can kind of get that point. And if like you're like a professional and you need the multi-core performance, go with AMD. Now, this is the way I think about it. Intel's given us a part here. It's kind of like a Windows MacBook. It really is, guys. There's even some SKUs of this Lunar Lake part that don't have a fan. So it's very similar to like a MacBook in that sense. And those are, the TDP on those are very much turned down. That is very unique. And I think, you know, Qualcomm has done that, but that's in the ARM architecture and there's so much incompatibility. It's just not a good thing. Like, so many games don't run on the X Elite. Not that this is going to be some gaming beast, but it's nice to have, right? And in my mind, it's almost like Lunar Lake is what you should be considering if you value battery life and if you value like just a nice experience overall. If you value just pulling up your laptop and actually having power and not being hot and loud, and you can just get some work done, you know, type up an essay, watch some lectures online, or maybe even game a little bit. Because many of the games you're going to be playing on a thin and light, you know, it's not going to be too serious. This can even play Cyberpunk, guys. It's actually winning gaming, but honestly, guys, I want to say it's a tie between this and AMD. See, AMD, it's like 5 FPS ahead, and Shadow Tomb Raider, it's a little bit more here. It's like 10%. They didn't really do a lot of games, but like it may be like 10% faster than AMD's current offering, the 890M. But honestly, I'm going to call it a tie. And honestly, I would say AMD probably wins gaming overall, just because Radeon's going to have a more consistent experience than ARC at this point when it comes to just all the games you're going to be wanting to play on a laptop. But that's not what I'm trying to get at here. I think that if you're going for this experience, you probably are looking at the thin and light laptop segment. And I think that Lunar Lake, out of all these laptops they're testing, they're all thin and light. Lunar Lake does that the best. If you're looking at this thin and light segment, you're going to want a laptop that's power efficient, that's not loud, and that has a long battery life and does all your work in a fast, efficient manner. And that's what it's going to do. And it looks like it does that the best. It uses the less power on average. Sometimes the X Elite wins. If you're looking in the thin and light, I think Lunar Lake is the laptop you should consider because it does thin and light the best. I see many reviews saying just get the AMD if you need more multi-core. Well, in that case, why would you get an AMD part without a discrete GPU, right? Like, in my mind, if you really are that workstation user and you need the multi-core and you may need that GPU performance as well, why not get an AMD part with also a dedicated GPU, right? I'm not sure if they're serving, Ryzen AI 300 with dedicated GPU, but they should be. Like, you should be getting a Ryzen AI HX 370 with like an RTX 4070 or something mobile. And that way, whatever you're doing can be accelerated by the graphics and the CPU at the same time, right? So honestly, it is kind of impressive what Intel's done here, but at the same time, when I first looked at the results, I was like kind of disappointed. I was like, is this really it? Because the first review I saw, like they weren't really winning too much. Like it was like tied in battery life and whatnot. And like I said, like different reviews have different results, but it's kind of crazy that they had to pull this much out to just barely eke out that win against Qualcomm in power efficiency. And it's not always even there. And, you know, for someone like me, I think multi-core, you're never going to really need that multi-core performance, like more than Lunar Lake provides, unless you're doing something totally crazy. So yeah, basically, does Lunar Lake spell the end for Qualcomm X Elite? Yes, I think it does. I think with that competition from also AMD and Intel with Lunar Lake, there's no reason to buy the Qualcomm X Elite. If you want that experience of just a thin and light that you can just get work done on, just get an Apple product, because those are just going to suit you way better in that case than if you really want ARM. Otherwise, if you really need to get some serious workstation work done, pick up one of these other parts. Like if you really need the multi-core, why not get an AMD CPU with a discrete card? It doesn't really make sense to get one with an iGPU, in my opinion, if you really need that performance. Now, if you're going for the power efficiency, Lunar Lake is really good. AMD is pretty close in many scenarios too, and it's not a bad choice if you can pick it up, especially for cheaper. The one thing I've seen is that these laptops being like $1,400, that's a lot to ask for a laptop without a discrete GPU, guys. That's just my thoughts. Let me know what you guys think. Silicon Steak, signing out.
He's on deck from GPUs to CPUs, he knows it all. No question too big, no detail too small. He's got the knowledge, he's got the skill. When he drops his take, the haters stand still. Fanboys can cry, but they can't deny.